Hi, so welcome back to another Dev Camp session. My name is Jorge, this is Adrian, and now that you got your Meadow device or your Meadow environment all set up, the next step for you as a maker is what should I plug in and what should I build with Meadow? So the first thing you'll have to source for looking for different parts that you will want to connect to your board and start building your IoT applications. So for example, we have this Meadow dev kit. And we have here, this little small project. I have an analog temperature sensor with a display, 3 buttons, and it's all wired to a half breadboard with some wires connected to directly to the Meadow device. But then as you're writing all this project, you'll have to also verify, that it's working, testing it, and also make sure that your connections are good.
And so this is where the IoT accelerators come in. And let's just bring in Project Lab here. Now, Project Lab is a pre-configured prototyping board that has a number of industry standard off-the-shelf parts. So we saw, Jorge's built with a display and a sensor. Well, Project Lab is a lot like that, but it's pre-configured. So we've got a really nice 320 by 240 color display here. And this is run the demo app, but we can see it actually has a lot of sensors. Some of those are tucked away underneath the display. We've got atmospheric temperature, pressure, humidity. There's a light sensor, that's our lux. There's a really fantastic motion sensor that does both acceleration and gyro, and a number of buttons. And what's fantastic here is this is pre-configured, standard configured, and this is a really great way to accelerate and get started building on IoT.
Yeah, and so the other thing is that not only is only tied to all the sensors that are built in into the Project Lab, we also have capabilities to make it extensible, which means that we'll have like different connectors, like the microbus over here, that you can simply just buy off the shelf microcontrollers that you can
microclick.
Yeah, so microclick. So say if you want to buy a GPS microclick component here, you already have GPS connectivity onto your breadboard, onto your Project Lab. And also we also have onto the right, we also have Grove connectors. So you can also connect different Grove sensors, like this flame sensor here. Just plug it into your Project Lab, like this, like so.
That is fantastic. So we can start with the standard platform and then customize it to our needs. So let's take a look at doing a little bit of development with Project Lab. So I'm going to take this off screen for now. Let's bring up Visual Studio. And Jorge and I have put together a quick project. This is a Meadow project. And the first thing I want to show you is the Project Lab NuGet package. So C# developers, we can go to the NuGet browser. We bring in the Meadow Project Lab NuGet, and you can see it installed in our project here. And let's look at some of the code. So I'm going to go to our Meadow app.cs. And the first thing we do is we make a field of type I Project Lab hardware. This is an abstraction. And then in our initialize method, we're going to get a concrete implementation. And to do that, we use the Project Lab class. This is a factory pattern. And Jorge, this is really cool because we use this create method. What this is going to do is we're assigning it to our abstraction, but it's actually a concrete implementation. Now, we showed Project Lab. This is actually version 3 of Project Lab. So of course that indicates that there's a version 1 and a version 2. And so this create factory method actually detects what hardware we're running on and returns the right concrete implementation. But notice that's all hidden away. We don't see this as Project Lab v3. It's just our Project Lab object.
That's right. And so Adrian, if you want to show the camera again, we can show here.
Absolutely.
We can show here the version 2 of Project Lab. Notice that we have a much smaller display here, and we have a little bit of other sensors going on. But notice that when we move on to the version 3, the display has changed. But for you as developers, you guys don't need to pay attention to any of this. This is all happening under the hood of the Project Lab factory method.
That is beautiful. So we can change hardware. And what's amazing too is we could actually change sensors in version 4, version 5, and this library abstraction will take care of that for us. Right. So a really nice simple example here. Let's read some temperature data from Project Lab. So we use our Project Lab field. We've instantiated it with our create factory method. And then there's a number of properties. In this case, we'll use the environmental sensor. This is actually a BME 688 on this board. It gives us temperature, pressure, humidity. And we're going to subscribe to the temperature updated event. This will fire when temperature is changed. And Now notice here in our lifecycle methods, we initialize, we instantiate, and then we're going to go down to our run method, which is down here. In our run method, we're going to start the environmental sensor to start updating. That's our BME680. And we're not specifying any details here. So it's actually, by default, it's going to fire an update every second. So let's run this application. We're going to place the board.
And while Adrian's running the application, if you look at the temperature updated event handler, you look at the output there, and notice that on the console outline, we're also showing the upcoming temperature value read expressed in Celsius. That's because of the awesome capability that Meadow has, that it has Meadow units built in that lets us do conversions of what sensors are you measuring in that moment. So for this case, we're getting temperature. So we're already internally doing the conversions to Kelvin, to Celsius, to Fahrenheit, and all these different other values that you would like to use on your projects.
And I love this. I used to study physics, and so Kelvin is near and dear for scientific work. And of course, we know other parts of the world work in Fahrenheit. We're in Canada. We love Celsius here. And so we're just about get some output here. We'll see this writing, and I'll point a couple other conveniences. We have a log class built into the Meadow platform. We'll use the resolver to pull the log instance, and we're going to log it out as info. And really handy, this is actually going to output to our console by default. And we're just about to get up and running. You can even see down here, I'm going to zoom in. This is actually kind of fun. Notice it says Project Lab V3 specific hardware. It's detected our platform. And now we're getting some temperature data. It's a nice warm day where we are. Look at that.
Excellent.
So if we want to learn some more about developing on Project Lab, what's a great place to go?
Oh yes, so we have a whole repo that is oriented to Project Lab samples. So you can just immediately just go to GitHub, go to Meadow Project Lab samples, where we have all these different kinds of projects that will help you use your onboard sensors that if you don't have, a Grove soil moisture sensor, for example, we got you covered with everything that you'll just need to run out of the box. There's also Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity with Maui applications, all sort of that fun stuff, and that will keep you going. That'll give you a better understanding of how to use Project Lab.
So what if I want a different type of hardware? If I have some other needs that maybe Project Lab isn't well suited for, do we have any other IoT accelerator options?
Oh, of course, yes. So aside from the Project Lab, which is an awesome on-the-go lab, portable lab, that's how I call it, we also have the GNSS tracker. This is a new upcoming Meadow-powered project. Notice that the takeaway or the coolest features that this little PCB has is a GPS sensor here. It has a e-paper display, so it doesn't draw a lot of energy or power to your board, so you can run it for long periods of time. You can put in a rechargeable battery, so you can run off this battery for a long period of time. And also has an environmental sensor, so if I unplug this here, we also have an environmental sensor on board, and also has a solar charging circuit, so you can also power it by solar if you're on the go.
And I'll add, this is not the final version, and the final version is going to have a quick connector as well, so you can add additional I2C peripherals.
Excellent, yes. And also, if this is not your thing about, maybe you are more interested into the weather, we got you covered as well. We also have our very, reference kit for the weather station called Klima. This is a PCB of the version 3 that is coming out soon. And this one also has the coolest features that this one has in this iteration is the air quality or CO2 sensor. So you can also, you can measure even more things, air quality on your local environment. We also have a GPS tracker as well. On top of your regular common of-the-mill things about rain and wind, speed, and direction. And there is one more peripheral.
One more one I'm a big fan of. And these are great. This one really it's a bit more of a passion project from the team. And you may have seen some covers on Glade, the 2D engine that runs on Meadow. And Wago really was built as a gaming handheld, but it is another really fantastic IoT accelerator. It has, again, our beautiful 320 by 240 display. There's 10 buttons for input here, and so if you actually have a lot of human input needs, this is a good platform. And it's a lot of fun. And if you want to do some gaming, that's okay too. And I'll say, with these, Project Lab is probably your go-to. This is the one that's built for maximum flexibility. Has a ton of features, and again, all of the extensibility Jorge talked about. But we do have these other kits that are available if you have other very specific needs.